Hello and welcome to another episode of Transportation Insights, where I, your host, Nadine Nocero-Tye at Sync Show, are interviewing experts in the transportation space, making sales and marketing change, creating waves, and taking the industry into the future. Today, we're interviewing Trey Griggs. He is the founder and CEO of Beta Consulting, where Beta Consulting helps you tell your story, craft your brand to help propel you forward into the future. He is also the host of several industry podcasts. And Trey and I met at TMSA, the Transportation Marketing Sales Association's annual conference just recently in Orlando, Florida, where Trey was our MC. And we also did some of our daily workouts together, which I love meeting a fitness buddy out in the wild. I definitely need that accountability. So thanks so much for joining us, Trey. I'd love for you to go ahead and just say hello to our audience and give some background on who you are and what your expertise in the industry is.
Well, Nadine, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's nice to be on the other side of the microphone. Usually I'm asking the questions. So it's nice to be on the other side and get to tell our story a little bit more. So I appreciate that. And yeah, the TMSA was an incredible event. Dr. Mark Monero with the workouts in the morning was great. Jennifer Carpus-Romaine did a phenomenal job leading that. And the entire executive team and the board really did a phenomenal job of that. So it was a pleasure to meet you there and to meet so many great people and to have opportunities like this now as a result of that event, which was great. To give a little background on myself, I've been in the transportation industry for the last 11 years. I've been in sales for the last 12 and a half. And it was about 2 years ago that I started to realize that I'm actually a marketer that's been kind of stuck in a salesperson's body for the last 12 years. I really see the world in terms of messaging and story and brand and content creation and all of those things as well. And so it's been a great journey and a nice transition because I feel like I have a great background of this, like what a salesperson needs from a marketing perspective, the resources that are going to help them do their job better. And now I love encouraging and helping companies tell their story and provide those marketing deliverables that are going to attract attention to their brand and move people into the sales funnel, into the pipeline to have more opportunities to close business. So it's been a very exciting run. Love what I'm doing right now. I've got an incredible team. I'm so blessed to have some amazing people on my team who are excited about building what we're building. And so it's just been a lot of fun so far.
Fantastic. Thank you. And yes, I love that you say, I'm a marketer who was trapped in a salesperson's body, or, it's because so much of what we do is about putting yourself in other people's shoes, finding relatable opportunities to say, what can I do to serve you? And how can I make your life better? And I love too that you also said it's branding to equal sales. It's like you're approaching it from both sides of the fence. And that's the key to success, is really making sure that you're filling both of those tubes. So
yeah, 100%. And I would say this as well real quick. Like I still love sales. Like sales is still fun, but I've just come to the realization as a writer, as a content creator myself, that I love telling stories and I love the marketing and branding side of it just a little bit more. And so that's where the focus has turned to, is helping companies tell stories, but still a huge fan of sales. I still do all of our own sales. We're a very founder-led sales organization. So I love both sides of it, but marketing to me has become much more enjoyable.
Oh my gosh. Well, sales, I think, also can become so much more enjoyable when you're consulting and solving a problem and sharing that expertise. It's like you're not actually selling at that point. You're just trying to help a person. And that also feels really good. It's like I always say to people, even though we're B2B, it's P2P, it's people to people. And when you're able to say, let me just tell you about an experience of mine or a way that I've solved this problem in the past, it can be so impactful, because at the end of the day, everyone's just saying, like, how can I get my job done easier, better, faster? How can I reach this goal or climb this mountain that we've been trying to climb for years and haven't been able to attain it? Like, it feels so good to run that race together.
100%. And I love putting, great resources in salespeople's hands to make their job easier. It's all about helping people succeed. And I think that's the role of marketing and sales together as one team, is to help each other succeed. The sales team can really help the marketing team succeed by giving them information about what's working, what's not working, what objections are they hearing, what are the reasons that a customer says yes. That's great marketing material for, reaching out to prospects and educating customers. So having both of them work together and help each other succeed, to me, is kind of the coup de grace when it comes to sales and marketing.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I want to dive in a little bit onto the thought leadership. You're the host of several podcasts. You're an industry leader. What we see on this end product, like even when this video is completed, versus what you're putting in to get there, and the journey you're taking to get there. I'd love to hear a little bit about the journey you've been on as you've created some of these podcasts, as you founded your own company, left working for a more traditional company. What's the branding? What's the strategy? What's the focus of really how you've gotten here, and why have you made some of the decisions you've made?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to look back and say that it was all very calculated and strategic, but in many ways, I learned along the way. And in 2019, I started creating videos and putting some content out, and really, it was just things I was learning myself, either something I was reading or a video that I watched that really, meant something to me. And I think the underlying principle is if you learn something, if something helps you grow, then it's going to help somebody else grow as well. And as somebody who's a former high school teacher and youth pastor, and really into like coaching and teaching and helping people, grow and become better, it was kind of a natural fit for me to say, hey, this is something I learned. I had a blog that I used to write pretty religiously about back in the day, where I would just again write about things I was learning, because I just wanted to help people, grow as well as I was growing and learn the things I was learning. I felt like it would be helpful. So in 2019, I started posting videos on LinkedIn just about things I was learning, and some things fun, some things very educational, some serious, some playful, whatever it was. And I went to the Freightwaves conference in 2019 in Chicago, and that was the first time that I realized that this thing is kind of working, because people would come up to me that I didn't know and say, "Oh, you're the guy that did that video with the hat on." And, I was like, "Yeah, that was me." And so I was like, this is kind of working. I'm building a brand, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how it was going to impact me moving forward, but I just knew that it was something I was enjoying, and that it seemed to be helping other people. It was reaching other people beyond what I even realized whenever I started. And so I just kept kind of pushing the brand and building the brand. Then I was able to become a brand ambassador for a company, for Lean Solutions Group, and become the face and the voice of that company to a certain extent out in the marketplace, and continue to build content. And all the while, I was not only pushing their brand, but I was also pushing my own personal brand. And then when I started my own company, it was such a benefit to have that network and to have that brand. And so, like, one thing that I tell people now, if you want to really recession proof your career, you got to keep learning as much as you possibly can, but then you've got to build your personal brand, because that's how people understand who you are and what you believe in, what you value, and how you could potentially fit in the organization. And so the whole journey has been really interesting. And when I started Beta Consulting Group in January of this year, it was really about, hey, how can I help other companies build a personal brand within a corporate brand? How can I help CEOs become the face and the voice of their company to personalize that brand? When you think about some of the greatest brands that are out there, a lot of times you don't think about their logo necessarily. You think about people that are associated with the logo. When you think of Apple, you think of Steve Jobs. When you think of Microsoft, you think of Bill Gates. You don't think of the window image as moving. I mean, that's a cool logo. You don't think of that. You think of Bill Gates. When you think of Nike, you think of like Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and these athletes, Serena Williams, that had an impact on building that brand because it personalized it. It made an emotional connection with the buyer, with the consumer, and it made the brand more significant. And so I'm passionate about helping CEOs become the face and the voice of their brand. And that's what we're focused on right now.
I love that very clear-cut explanation of the power of the person behind the brand. And I want to unpack it a little bit, because often as a marketing consultant or as a sales consultant, often people want that end result. They're like, I want the ROI on my marketing spend. I want to be able to tie this directly to what I've done. And they think that path is really linear. And the thing that I'm so impressed with you, Trey, is your discipline and commitment to what you do. So I'd love for you to also just give a little behind the scenes peek into the way that you release content, because it's a huge job and you do it quite frequently. So I'd love for you to just unpack that a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, it is a big job. And before I answer that, to go back to your point, understanding the ROI marketing is very difficult, because like direct attribution in marketing is very challenging. What actually leads somebody to your website or to fill out a form? It could be 5 different pieces of content and you don't know which one really had the most impact. But what I would say is, that marketing is working when your sales cycle decreases, when you're getting more inbound people reaching out to you to ask what you're doing, when somebody does come to you, they're more educated already about what you're doing. That's when you know that your marketing is working. It may not be a direct, like linear or numeric ROI, but you can feel it. You can definitely feel when the marketing is working and when it's not. But to go to your question about like, how do you put out content? How do you do that? It's a lot of work, but I will say this: when you're passionate about something, it never feels like work. And this is the best part of my day, is getting a chance to podcast and talk to incredible guests every day. And so for me, the work that goes into it is really a joy, truthfully, but it is a lot of work. So when I started, I made the decision in February that in March, I was going to go with a daily show.
Yeah.
which is a ton of work.
That's why I was like,
But,
can we say it? Can we say that it's
yeah.
daily? Like we have to really
Yeah.
unpack that because that's huge.
Yeah. It's a daily show. We're at episode 90 now, which is crazy that we're like 3 months into it. We're at episode 90. I think we've only missed one day for a holiday. So Memorial Day, we didn't do a show because I just wanted to encourage people to take the day off and enjoy their families.
Love it.
So we didn't do a Memorial Day, but every other weekday we've done a show no matter what. And I've had incredible guests who've said yes and been willing to be a part of the show. But I learned early on that it was if we wanted to do it right, it was going to take more effort than just me. To get it done, or I was going to probably lose my mind. So I hired a creative director who now helps me with a lot of the deliverables and the in-studio production. We use a really great software called StreamYard, which makes it very simple. And one of the things that's nice about going live every day, actually two things. One, it's very authentic. It's real. If something goes wrong, it's just, that's what it is. It's just how it works. There's no editing it. There's no changing it. That's just what it is. In fact, if you watch yesterday's show, I was out on a golf course trying to do the show and the signal wasn't quite as strong. And at one point I didn't even know we were live. So I was asking, are we live? Are we live? Like it was probably really embarrassing, but at the same time, it's like, that's real. So there's the authenticity of it. That's really cool. The second thing about it is when you go live, you do all of your production in studio. So the on-demand version is done. Like there's no cutting or editing at the end. What we do is we do a lot of work on the front end to get ready. We promote, our episodes. We highlight our clients and our guests. But then at the end, we just put out a couple of clips every day that highlight some of the big parts of the show. And then we also give that entire raw video footage to the guest as a value add, like as a thank you, like, hey, go and use this for yourself, and tag us in it if you would, but use it however you want. It's totally yours. And so we've just kind of come up with a strategy that's been really good for us, but also really good for the guests and provided really valuable content because the content comes from the guests. I had one person ask, how do you come up with content every day? How do you come up with topics? I'm like, well, it's all based on the guest. What's their expertise? What's their story? And I want to tell their story. I want people to hear their story and learn from them. So it's a lot of work, but it's so much fun. It's an absolute blast.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much for just walking everyone through that because again, it's like everyone wants to say, oh, I've done 100 episodes, which you'll be hitting your 100 episode really
2
soon.
weeks. That's right.
And how exciting to celebrate it. But everyone says, oh yeah, I want that. But it's really, how do you lead up to that? And how do you commit to it and make that decision? Because it changes your life. And you end up doing it live from a golf course and it has to be a part of your ethic. And I think for you as a teacher, as a leader, and as a media owner, this is what you're doing and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just really want people to be blessed by it. I want them to learn. I want them to, take a nugget from something that someone else says and make their life better, help them with their job or whatever it is, help them be a better spouse or a better parent or whatever it might be. So hopefully it's doing that, and going daily just gives us more opportunities to do that.
Great. Agreed. So I want to talk a little bit about some misconceptions you've seen in the industry. You've been in the industry a long time. What have you found as it relates to showcasing value, sharing your secret sauce, establishing a brand? What are some of those misconceptions that you're really trying to use content to disprove?
I think one of the biggest ones is that, a lot of, especially, buyers, CEOs or executives, whoever's buying marketing, whoever's deciding to do the spend, it's not something that you turn on the spigot and it just works right away. Social media has allowed us to accelerate the return faster, I think, but it's a cumulative process that builds over time. And so when I'm talking to somebody, they're like, well, what's our commitment here? I said, well, how committed are you to actually working, and to me, you got to give the, marketing campaign or a new podcast or social media strategy at least 6 months to start to see some return, if not more than a year. Now, some might say, well, you're just trying to get people into a year contract or a 6 month contract. No, that's not at all. It does no good to do 2 months worth of marketing. You're not going to see anything. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym 3 times a week for a month, you probably won't actually notice much difference when you look in the mirror. You might not even see much difference on the scale in a month. But if you do it for 6 months consistently, 3 times a week, you'll really start to notice a difference. You'll notice the number on the scale dropping. You'll notice you being more cut, more, more whatever you're going for, whatever your physical goals are. Your respiratory fitness is much better. But after a month, you're probably not going to notice as much of a change. And it's the same thing with marketing. If you do marketing for a month, you might see a little movement, but you're not going to see what you're really looking for. And so that's why I say, listen, you need to be willing to commit 6 months to this. Not to say that, we're not going to make adjustments on the fly if we see something working or if A/B testing shows us one thing or another, but it's a commitment that they need to make. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that you start marketing and then all of a sudden just inbound leads are going to flow and everybody's going to know who you are. And it takes a while. I knew starting this podcast, standing out, that it was going to take probably 6 months of daily podcasting to really start to see movement. And what's interesting about it is that if you just look at one metric, which is my followers on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
My followers on LinkedIn, I was probably adding like 10 followers a week when I first started, which wasn't, a big lift. And now I'm seeing sometimes 10 followers a day who are coming, to starting to be a part of this community that we're building. But it's taken 3 months. And in 3 more months, I'm curious to see where we're going to be there. But I knew it was going to take probably 6 months to really establish this podcast and establish the brand. And now it's starting to pick up a little bit, but to
Right.
me, it's a commitment that, that companies need to have to say, we're going to invest at least 6 months in this and work together and make sure it works. And to me, that's really, really important. It's just like working out.
Yes, yes. The flywheel just starts to pick up speed, the inertia, it builds, and now you're seeing that. I think that's great feedback. And I love the gym analogy. I always joke, like, I eat one salad for dinner and I'm like, I don't look like a swimsuit model yet.
Right. Right. You could, and the thing is, like, one of my guests just said this recently. They said consistency beats intensity. And when you think of like the gym analogy as well, it's like if I go to the gym for 10 hours, that's not actually going to do me any good. But if I go for 30 minutes every day for a month or 2 months or 3 months, I'll start to see that difference because consistency is going to beat intensity every day. And I think, again, that's just a great principle in life.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Patience, consistency, discipline. It's the key to the kingdom. All right. So I just have two more questions for us today. One, now stepping back and looking at your business and the way that you're growing aggressively. How does this work for you? What are some tips that you have for other business leaders and companies that are in high growth mode? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think it's always a good idea to invest in your brand, no matter where your business is. So if you're growing by leaps and bounds, that's great. I mean, kudos to you, and that's awesome. But making sure that you build your brand is really important. Telling your story, putting your culture out there, putting your values, your mission, your vision, using those tools to really tell people about who you are is incredibly valuable because inevitably there's always kind of a downturn in the market. And to me, when that downturn happens, that's when you want your brand to be front and center and to have a really good reputation in the industry, because then you're going to get clients that will still trust you and want to be with you. Then you're going to get, people maybe who are looking for work. You get the really best of the best wanting to come and work with you because they know who you are and what you're doing. I read an interesting statistic just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, that said that 2 out of every 3 grocery shoppers are still purchasing name brand items. So think about that for a minute. They already cost more because they're name brand, but then now they cost even more because of supply chain issues. But yet 2 out of 3 are still purchasing name brand items because they know what they're going to get. There's a trust factor. There's an experience there. And those companies have been promoting themselves the entire time. When things were good, they're still promoting themselves out there. They're still offering some coupons or discounts or advertisements or whatever it might be. And now when things are kind of in a downturn or harder, they're still winning because their brand is well known. And I think that's a principle for business to say it's always good to invest in your brand, even when things are good, maybe even more importantly, when things are good, so that when things do turn, you have a well-established brand, well-trusted, well-known. People know who you do. They know what to expect, and they still want to work with you.
Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. When you talk about marketing when things are good, so many people, when things are bad, they say, oh, I need to do something. I need to make a change. It's so reactive. And the strategic breath you can take when things are good to say, all right, we're not coming from a place of fear. We're not in a jam. We can really step back and think about this and be so intentional about where we want our brand to go, where we want our marketing to go, how we come together organizationally for that path forward. I think you're so right. It's like those are the times that it's going to make the biggest difference to your business because it's so thoughtful and it's so proactive. So I think that is a
Yeah.
fantastic tip. Thank you.
There's an ancient Hebrew proverb that says that your name is worth more than silver and gold. And I believe that's true of companies and of brands, because I mean, what it's really saying is your reputation, what people think about you, how they perceive you. Do they trust you? Like that is worth more than silver and gold. So whether times are good or times are not good, it is always a good time to invest in who you are to the marketplace, telling your stories, building the brand and building that trust.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Trey. My last question for you is a two-part question. Where can people find you and how should they reach out to you, or what should they reach out to you about? So I'd love to just give you a minute to plug yourself, say this is where people can find you and this is why they should reach out.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So they can find us online at betaconsultinggroup.com, where they can learn a little bit more about our company, about our culture, about what we believe and what we're trying to do. And we've got some forms on there, of course. They can fill those out and let us know what they're looking for, and reach out to us that way. They can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, and either connect, follow, and then DM me with, just inquiries or questions about what we do, and follow what we're doing. We really want people to be a part of our community. People have asked me before, what is Beta Consulting Group? What does it stand for? What is Beta? And you'll notice that Beta is always capitalized in all of our marketing because it's actually an acronym. And that acronym is Be Excellent Today Alliance. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to put together a community of people who are pursuing excellence every day. It's a part of our mission. It's a part of our vision statement. It's what we want to do. And so we encourage people to come along for the ride and be a part of, the podcasting that we're doing, the Standing Out podcast that's daily, the Word on the Street podcast that's on Fridays at noon Central, and just be a part of our community that's pursuing excellence and encouraging one another and trying to grow together. That's really, really valuable to us. So find us online, find us on LinkedIn, and just a quick plug, we just started a swag store. We have our own merch store because we want people to enjoy and be a part of the community. So you can pick up a Word on the Street shirt or coffee mug or Standing Out, water bottle, whatever it is, just by going to shop.betaconsultinggroup.com. And this is our grand opening this week. So they can use coupon code BETAGO, capital BETA, lowercase GO, and get 20% off their entire order. We just want people to enjoy being a part of this community of what we're trying to build at Beta Consulting Group with our different podcasts and what we're doing. So thank you again for having me on the show. Just awesome to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Trey. Congratulations on the merch. And thanks so much for offering the promo code to our viewers today. We really appreciate it. And I just wanted to say thank you for the time. I'm lucky to have you in my professional network, and I feel lucky to now call you a friend as we've gotten to know each other better over, this last month. So thank you so much. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. And please feel free to subscribe or to leave a comment or question on this thread, on the video thread below for Trey or for myself. We'd love to hear more about what you're looking to hear from this video series, what you're looking to see, and who you're looking to meet. And you can always self-nominate or nominate another transportation expert for a Transportation Insights video. So thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day.